In a town, an old dilapidated laboratory building was slated for demolition. Rumors swirled that it was haunted. Many skeptical and staunch believers in science insisted on visiting it to check in, until one day a student walked in and was never seen again. Liam, a final year chemistry student, suddenly went missing. Surveillance cameras showed he hadn't left the school on the day of his disappearance. The only area without surveillance cameras on campus was the Serene Building, also known as the Haunted Building. The police thoroughly searched the Serene Building but found nothing unusual. As a precaution, the Serene Building was sealed off, prohibiting student entry. The Serene Building was the school's old laboratory. It earned its haunted moniker, not just because people claimed to have seen ghosts there, but also due to the occasional hum of machinery. Yet, it had been abandoned for years, with only a few broken, rusted pieces of equipment piled inside, incapable of producing any sound on their own. Before Liam's disappearance, many skeptics, refusing to believe in ghosts, insisted on exploring the haunted building on dark, stormy nights. Some would emerge triumphantly, puffing out their chests and boasting of their bravery. Others would flee in terror, swearing they'd eat dirt if there wasn't a ghost in there. Thus, the rumors of ghosts in the haunted building remained a subject of intense debate, yet no one had ever truly been harmed, until Liam vanished. After that, no one dared to check in at the haunted building anymore, and they were right not to, because I can definitively say that the haunted building is indeed truly haunted. As soon as I approached the haunted building, the underworld token in my palm grew hot. This indicated that in this abandoned laboratory building, there was something I needed to deal with. This was my third time visiting the haunted building. Although it was sealed, how could an abandoned building only have one entrance and exit? I climbed straight to the rooftop, via the external fire escape at the back of the building, where a small door allowed access inside. My previous 2 visits yielded nothing. This puzzled me greatly, because if the underworld token reacted, there had to be a ghost, either a wandering spirit or a possession. Yet twice, I saw not even a shadow of a ghost. It was illogical. This time, upon arrival, I deliberately followed Aunt Vivian's instructions. I poured a drop of purifying water into my palm. The purifying water could temporarily mask the aura of the underworld token, making evil spirits less wary of me. I was now at the staircase on the 3rd floor of the haunted building. To avoid waking the snake, alerting the spirits, I didn't turn on my flashlight, slowly making my way through the long, eerie corridor in the darkness. At the end of the hallway, I followed the handrail down to the 2nd floor. The air was thick with the smell of dust and mildew. Leaning against the cold wall, I traversed the 2nd floor corridor, then followed the handrail down to the 1st floor. This laboratory building only had 3 floors, and the doors of every lab on each floor were open. On my previous 2 visits, the 2nd and 3rd floors had nothing unusual. It was only when I reached a lab in the middle of the 1st floor that my palm would begin to heat up. So, this time, I still checked the upper 2 floors as usual, then quietly moved towards that 1st floor lab. By moonlight, I saw the fire door ahead, slightly ajar. Just over a meter past the fire door was the lab. Indeed, as soon as I reached the door, The heat in my palm intensified. Holding my breath, I peeked inside. Sure enough, the purifying water was effective. Right behind the innermost lab bench, a greenish-blue light emanated. Descriptions of the spiritual fire of vengeful spirits from the underworld textbook instantly flooded my mind. I slowly crept closer to the light, making sure not to bump into any tables or chairs. Almost there. Nearly. Almost there. I gently reached into my pocket, where I kept a ghost dispelling talisman. Target acquired. Time to act. Evil spirit. Behold my talisman. I roared, spun deftly in the dark, and slapped the talisman onto. I heard a sharp smacky, and my heart swelled with joy. I raised my flashlight to illuminate it. But when I clearly saw my target, I suddenly froze. Zap! Let you know. Oh. There. Zap! Zap! I convulsed and fell to the floor. Before losing consciousness, I saw Ethan with the talisman stuck to his forehead, looking utterly annoyed. Ethan was my roommate and Aunt Vivian's nephew. He had no idea about Aunt Vivian's and my identities as underworld agents and was an almost extreme materialist. I don't know how much time passed, but I abruptly woke up, finding myself still on the floor. Ethan, meanwhile, sat cross-legged, leaning against a lap bench, typing on his laptop. His laptop screen emitted a greenish-blue light, revealing lines of code. Ouch! I sat up with a start. Are you insane? Why did you electrocute me? Ethan didn't take his eyes off the screen, his tone indifferent. Why did you stick a talisman on me? I thought you were a ghost. Who else would I stick it on? And I thought you were a ghost. Who else would I electrocute? I didn't have time to explain to him, nor did I know how. Feeling the heat in my palm, I hastily said, "You need to leave right away. This isn't the place you should be." Seeing he had no intention of getting up, I scoffed. "You're usually so quiet. I never expected you to be one of those Chunibu kids who come here to check in. What are you looking at me for?" "I'm not here to check in," I explained, suddenly feeling guilty. "Then what gare are you doing here?" I'm on a date, okay? Just leave quickly. Don't ruin my date here. Even in the pitch black, I could clearly see him frown. You always pick such strange places. I suddenly recalled the time on the train when he saw me cornering someone in the restroom twice. It was hard to defend myself. That was, well, it doesn't matter what happened before. Ethan kept typing, his fingers clattering on the keyboard. Change your dating spot. This place, while interesting, is also dangerous. Huh? Does he know something? No way. I remembered Aunt Vivian's strict warning, never to tell her nephew about the underworld. What do you mean? Ethan didn't stop typing. I've detected the presence of living beings here. There's a third living presence besides you and me. A third living person? I asked, astonished. How can you distinguish between the living and the dead, let alone pinpoint how many there are? It's not difficult, he said, as if stating the most obvious thing. All living organisms adhere to the laws of thermodynamics, constantly generating heat. Even in hibernation or coma, their metabolic activity produces faint thermal radiation signatures distinct from their surroundings. At the same time, living beings especially humans, generate an extremely weak bioelectromagnetic field through the activity of their nervous system, muscles, and heart. These fields create characteristic disturbances that can be detected within the ambient electromagnetic background. Furthermore, living people constantly exhale into the environment. Ethan, my friend, I deliberately interrupted him, wanting to express my admiration. I was also worried that if anything happened here, given my current abilities, I wasn't strong enough to protect him. So, I gave him a thumbs up, full of awe. You truly are a prodigy. Aunt Vivian always said her nephew was a genius. So, everything you said can be measured just by clacking away on your keyboard. Ethan adjusted his glasses. Not entirely. It also requires some sensor equipment, but the method isn't important. What's important is that I can now confirm there's a third person here besides you and me. I shone my flashlight around the lab once. A quick glance confirmed there was nowhere to hide a person. So, you suspect there might be an underground space here? Ethan froze, looking surprised that I didn't question his deduction, but readily agreed with it. A moment later, he nodded in stunned agreement. His certainty truly made me believe him, even if I couldn't explain why. The guidance of the underworld token couldn't be wrong either. This meant that right now, there were both humans and ghosts here. So, I secretly wondered if there really was a basement here. Could a ghost be holding Liam captive? It couldn't be Liam holding a ghost captive. In that case, he wouldn't have gone missing himself. Therefore, the key to solving the problem now was to find the entrance to that underground space. At this point, convincing Ethan to leave seemed highly unlikely. After all, he was the one who came up with this series of deductions. I looked more like an intrusive busybody. So, I could only work with him and adapt as needed. We raised our flashlights and split up to search. As a precaution, while he wasn't looking, I secretly stuck a talisman on his back. If he encountered a low-level evil spirit, this talisman could offer him some protection. He frowned and turned his head. I sheepishly raised my hand. Mosquito. Indeed, in my palm, there was a flattened mosquito. I had deliberately left it there after swatting it 2 minutes earlier, just to fool him. Ethan pursed his lips and said nothing, turning back to resume his search. I still wasn't entirely at ease, worried that the talisman I drew was too weak. So, I stealthily pulled out another talisman and, smack it free, stuck it firmly to his lower back. Daniel Fang, another mosquito. Ethan's face was utterly blank. Exhausting his last shred of patience and politeness, he ground out, "If there are any more mosquitoes, you don't need to swat them for me." Thank you. I found it hilarious inside. How could someone as lively as Aunt Vivian have such a rigid nephew? We searched for a long time, but found nothing. I even thought I should probably buy a book on Chimin Dunjia to read when I got home. I never expected to encounter such obscure knowledge, neither being a tomb raider nor a time traveler. Who knew this small lab might hide a grand mechanism? My mind wandered, lost in various unrelated thoughts. Suddenly, I saw a white shadow flicker past the door. Who's there? My heart seized, and I instinctively shielded Ethan. I was terrified something might happen to him, How would I explain it to Aunt Vivian? I stared intently out the door. It was as dark as usual out there. I wasn't even sure if I had seen it wrong. I cautiously took step after step, slowly approaching the door. As I walked, I whispered reassuringly, "Ethan, don't be scared. Hide behind me. I'll deal with it." Before I even finished speaking, Ethan darted past me. In 2 or 3 strides, he was out in the corridor. "Hey, stop! Don't!" I rushed after him thinking, this foolish kid. The legal, long, eerie corridor, with its dilapidated windows and doors, became even more sinister and monstrous under the flickering moonlight. It was truly the perfect time for ghosts to appear. Sure enough, a faint, human-sized white shadow suddenly glided across the corridor wall, then vanished instantly. It reappeared, then vanished again, repeating the cycle like a ghostly figure in a loose white robe, floating in mid-air, materializing in unpredictable locations. I raised my hand, threw a talisman, muttered an incantation, completely useless. The thing still flickered on the corridor wall, completely unaffected. I couldn't help but mumble, "No way." I thought it might be useless, but I didn't expect it to be. "It is useless." Ethan sighed softly beside me, then took 2 steps forward. I immediately pulled him back. "What are you doing? Are you possessed?" Seeing the thing still advance, he spoke, his voice unnervingly calm. "A shadow from a light source. This is an image projected through a lens." My jaw dropped. "You're human, and yet you can be this materialistic." Looking at the flickering ghost on the wall and feeling the temperature in my palm drop because we had left the lab, I had no choice but to trust his judgment once more. I pressed, "What do you mean?" Ethan looked at the shadow. Sometimes distant, sometimes close on the wall, and gravely explained high-intensity light projection causes image distortion due to air turbulence. The influence of mediums like glass softens the edges of the image. I barely resisted shouting an expletive, instead managing a more civilized exclamation. I never thought I'd meet a real-life academic prodigy. "So someone is faking ghosts?" Ethan looked towards the new laboratory building opposite. "Science can explain everything. There are no ghosts in this world. The so-called floating ghost is merely a remotely controlled horror light show using optical principles." "Oh boy, you're confident. But don't be that confident." After this little exploration, I had even more questions. If the ghost was human-controlled, what was the underworld token guiding me to? Was the person controlling the ghost in the haunted building? Or was there a real ghost? Were the things that scared students away before real ghosts or fake ones? Was this person simply playing a prank, a lavish hobby of an academic genius showing off their knowledge, or did they have another purpose? And why was only Liam missing? Right. Why Liam? My intuition told me this could be a breakthrough clue. If the person imprisoned in the basement was indeed Liam, why would the ghost keep him alive? If it wasn't to harm him, then why imprison him? Had anyone close to Liam passed away? Following this line of thought, I made inquiries and unexpectedly found a clue. 2 years ago, the year I finished my university entrance exams, Liam was in his 2nd year. He had a very beautiful girlfriend. Also, a student in the same major named Lily. In their second year of university, Lily and her twin sister, Lucy, were both involved in a car accident. Lily died at the scene, while Lucy became a vegetative patient, remaining in the hospital to this day. Could it be that Lily, due to her sudden death, held a strong grievance and couldn't let go of Liam? But that didn't seem quite right. This had happened 2 years ago. If Lily had a lingering attachment to the human world, why would she only now target Liam? Regardless, there were no other clues at the moment. I could only try to use the relationship between Liam and Lily as a starting point for my investigation. Lily and Lucy's father was Professor Lu from our school's chemistry department. To some extent, this provided a slight convenience for my investigation. I thought, if Lily remained in the human world, unwilling to leave, besides being unable to let go of her boyfriend, would she also miss her family? I had no reason to go to Professor Lu's house, but I could still visit Lucy's hospital room to investigate a bit, hoping to find some clues. I deliberately chose a day when Professor Lu had a class, then went to Kang City's Third People's Hospital. My reason told me that a half-baked underworld agent like me really shouldn't go to places like hospitals. This was a complex place where humans and ghosts mingled, essentially a bustling market at the intersection of yin and yang. If I encountered 1 or 2 vengeful spirits, I might be able to handle them. But what if there was a ghost gang here, or a ghost boss? Thousands of strange deaths might await me, but what I didn't expect was the incredibly peaceful atmosphere of the hospital. Thanks to the small bone charm around my neck, I possessed the yin-yang eyes. In a place like a hospital, having yin-yang eyes meant the sight was truly bustling. As soon as I entered the outpatient hall, I saw an old man bustling back and forth between the registration machines. "Hey, press here. Insert the card." "Oh dear, young man. I told you to press here." Right. Are you sure you're not mistaken?" "Oh, young lady, your card is upside down. You need to insert it like this." "Why is that girl cutting in line? If the old man didn't have a transparent hole in his head, I wouldn't have even noticed." Some souls, due to lingering regrets, might not immediately proceed to the underworld. They bore no resentment, had no intention of doing evil, merely lingered or were trapped in the mortal realm. Many souls didn't even realize they were dead, stubbornly repeating certain fixed behaviors based on their personalities or hobbies when alive, just like the old man in front of me. The old man saw me and immediately approached. "Young man, are you here to register for an examination or visit someone sick?" I smiled. "Grandpa, I'm looking for someone. Do you know the way to the inpatient ward?" The old man froze. "Oh, what a polite young man. It's been a long time since anyone talked to me like that. Young people nowadays see the hole in my head and don't even bother. It's truly a decline in morality. A young man like you, with a bright future ahead." I couldn't help but laugh. He had a hole in his head and still thought he was alive. How did he rationalize that? I tentatively asked Grandpa, "What happened to your head?" The old man waved his hand. "Oh, don't even mention it. Bad luck. I was walking downstairs when a couple arguing upstairs threw a flower pot that hit me. What a cruel twist of fate." I consoled him, Grandpa. "Actually, they're not ignoring you. They just have social anxiety." "Do you know social anxiety?" "A fear of social interaction. Social anxiety? The old man looked confused. I tried to make something up. Yo-ho! Well, it looks quite unique. They're afraid that if you see their pity, it might hurt your self-esteem. That's why they pretend not to see it. Actually, they're all grateful for your eagerness to help. I just didn't want the old man to feel disappointed. To my surprise, the old man's eyes reddened upon hearing this. Really? So that's it? Oh, these kids. Yes. I nodded with mixed feelings. Grandpa, you shouldn't expose them either. Just let them pretend. After talking with the old man, I noticed everyone around me seemed to be avoiding me, spreading out as if I were the center of their repulsion. They even glanced at me, either intentionally or unintentionally. Damn it! I got so engrossed in conversation that I forgot I was the only one who could see the old man. Feeling awkward, both for myself and those around me, I instinctively quickened my pace, quickly leaving the outpatient hall. Special places like hospitals allowed spirits to move freely during the day. As long as it wasn't the scorching midday sun, some spirits could even wander out onto the lawn. Upon entering the inpatient building, the ghosts were as numerous as mountains and seas. Now that the small bone charm and I were more in sync, I could immediately distinguish between spirits and living people. I tried to minimize my presence, subtly observing the bustling activity while trying to move straight ahead. A muscular ghost was doing pull-ups, astonished that he wasn't expending any energy, completely unaware that he was floating. A ghostly doctor in a white lab coat, looking utterly serious, held a non-existent CT scan in his hand, muttering, "This shadow is likely a space-occupying lesion. I recommend a biopsy." All sorts of human and ghostly voices mingled around. I felt like I was visiting a large-scale, immersive haunted house. But the underworld token in my palm remained incredibly calm, as if silently scolding, "Is that all?" There was no trace of vengeful spirit energy. Secretly relieved, I headed straight for Lucy's hospital room, guided by the information I'd gathered earlier. As soon as I reached the door, the underworld token suddenly awoke, its temperature skyrocketing. I had really guessed correctly. Could Lily's spirit be inside? Just as I was about to push the door open, a nurse in a pink uniform called out to me, "Sir, this is the intensive care unit. Entry is restricted without permission." I immediately put on a sincere, gentle, somewhat student-like smile. "Nurse, I'm Professor Lu's student. I came specifically to visit Lucy today." The nurse's voice was polite, but her attitude brooked no argument. "I'm sorry, student, without Professor Lu's consent, I cannot let you in." I smiled and nodded, pretending to understand. With a dedicated and responsible nurse like you taking care of Lucy, Professor Lu can certainly rest assured. As I spoke, I took out my phone and showed her Professor Lu's number. "So, if I call Professor Lu now, could you confirm his number?" The nurse tilted her head, glanced at it and said, It is Professor Lu's number." I theatrically gave her a thumbs up and exclaimed admiringly, "You truly are a model of dedication to your work. You even remember the patient's family's phone number." The nurse blushed slightly from my praise, bowing her head with a smile. I seized the opportunity to quickly switch the contact from Professor Lu to Professor Lu in my contacts and pressed dial. That Professor Lu was actually my childhood friend and brother, from another mother. Sean? Since childhood, he had a knack for mimicking voices. Not only could he imitate Professor Lou to fool the nurse, but Sean could even mimic the nurse's voice to fool Professor Lou. With Professor Lou's verbal permission, the nurse no longer stopped me, only giving me a final instruction. Visiting hours are 15 minutes. Please maintain silence in the room. I nodded, agreeing to every word. Watching the nurse return to her station, I carefully pushed open the door to Lucy's room. Lucy's hospital room was very neat, clean, and even cozy. It was clearly the result of Professor Lou's meticulous care over a long period. Lucy lay still on the bed. Though her face was pale, it couldn't hide the delicate beauty of her features. Indeed, as the rumor said, both sisters were very beautiful girls. I carefully observed the room's decor. The layout of the room, though simple, was refined. On the table, to the left of the bedside, 2 identical music boxes were placed side by side. They had dark sandalwood bases and transparent crystal globes, inside which miniature ballet stages were embedded. I'd heard that both sisters, Lily and Lucy, loved ballet. Professor Lou must have used this to convey his longing and protection for his 2 daughters. Beside the window, 2 identical bronze wind chimes hung parallel. The wind chimes had 3 tiers, with 9 bells, each bronze plate intricately carved with complex, delicate vine patterns. The bronze bells swayed gently with the breeze, but emitted no sound. The clappers must have been removed to keep the patient room quiet. But there were other items in the room, all in identical pairs. For example, 2 rosewood boxes placed on the sofa against the right wall. 2 identical beige wool berets hung on the coat rack. Looking at these items, arranged in pairs, a bitter pang rose in my heart. Professor Lou had quietly poured all his impartial love for his 2 daughters into this room. I heard Professor Lou and his wife had divorced many years ago. Lily lived with her mother, while Professor Lou lived with Lucy. But after Lily's death, Professor Lou suffered a tremendous emotional shock, refusing anyone to visit Lucy. Though he appeared strong and optimistic to others, whenever it concerned Lucy, he became incredibly stubborn. He blamed himself for not taking adequate care of his daughters, leading to the accident. Therefore, he trusted no one, insisting on personally protecting the comatose Lucy. The father's heavy, self-tormenting love couldn't help but move me and make me sigh. But this was not the time for sentimentality. I thoroughly searched the room several times. Besides the restroom, there was no other separate space here. Where was the ghost? This place wasn't like the school's lab building. It couldn't hide a secret room. The underworld token had warned me, so there must be an imbalance of yin and yang in this room. But even as a vegetative patient, Lucy was still a living person, dominated by yang energy. So where was the yin energy? Could a spirit have possessed Lucy? I had now fairly well mastered the basic spells in the underworld textbook. My hand quietly formed a mudra, combined with an incantation. Immediately, a faint, almost imperceptible spiritual glow emanated from my fingertips. Soul-seeking art. Activate. The spiritual glow, receiving its silent command, flowed from my fingertips, gently sweeping over Lucy, who was deep in sleep on the hospital bed. I detected only one soul within Lucy's body. Though faint as a candle in the wind, it stubbornly maintained that spark of life. It was a pure living soul, with no yin spirit possession. How could this be? My previous assumptions were torn to shreds by an invisible hand. Ever since approaching this room, the underworld token had been warning me. The underworld token was proof of a contract to sense yin and yang and maintain balance. Its sensitivity to yin and yang energies was the core and most reliable trust of an underworld agent. But why were there no signs of yin energy here? Suddenly, a strong sense of dizziness washed over me. I knew this was due to my depletion of yang energy while using the soul-seeking art. It was also the token enforcing the contract's rules. When an underworld agent is involved in an event of yin-yang imbalance, if they cannot quickly find the source of that imbalance and effectively harmonize it, the agent's body will become a battlefield for the clash of yin and yang energy. No matter which side dominates, the underworld agent will be punished. I braced myself against the windowsill, took deep breaths, shook my head, and tried to regain my composure. My eyes inadvertently fell upon the shadow of the wind chimes on the ground, and I noticed something unusual. The shadow looked too regular, very much like a character. Perhaps due to the changed angle of light, the shape of the character was somewhat distorted, making it hard for me to recognize immediately. I looked up, carefully observing the wind chime, instinctively adjusting my position. Finally, at a fixed angle, I clearly saw it. Through the intricate overlapping of the hollowed-out vine patterns on the 3 bronze tiers, the character Lamb, Lily, clearly emerged. I was stunned. What an exquisite gift! What a brilliant design! In my heart, I couldn't help but guess. If this wind chime was for Lily, then the other one must be for Lucy. I immediately went to verify, shifting my steps and adjusting my angle. However, what surprised me was that the other wind chime also clearly revealed the character, Lamb, Lily. Both wind chimes bore the name Lily. My heart suddenly skipped a beat. Strangely, my eyes darted towards the music boxes at the head of the bed. That wooden base. Perhaps, after checking, it was indeed as I thought. Both music boxes had the same character, Lamb, Lily, carved beneath them. I felt an enormous chill shoot straight from the soles of my feet to the top of my head. A meticulous person like Professor Lu, when preparing gifts for his 2 daughters, would surely not make such a basic mistake. Therefore, the only explanation was that these seemingly paired gifts were, from the beginning, intended for only one person, Lily. I couldn't help but look at Lucy on the hospital bed, and an incredibly terrifying thought uncontrollably surfaced in my mind. Could it be that, deep down, Professor Lu had never truly accepted the fact that his eldest daughter had passed away? He even hoped that the sleeping Lucy could replace the deceased Lily. He had used the name Lily to obscure everything about her sister, including her very life. If so, the underworld token's warning about the yin-yang imbalance could perhaps be explained. What twisted obsession was truly hidden within this seemingly peaceful hospital room? I sensed an even darker door ahead. There was a puzzle that made me break out in a cold sweat, waiting for me to decipher it. As soon as I exited the hospital gate, my phone rang. Professor Lu? It was Sean calling. Hello, Daniel. We're exposed. Why? Just now, I was still staking out Professor Lu's class. He was teaching, then suddenly rushed out. I secretly followed him and found him heading straight to the hospital. Oh, he's almost here. Brace yourself. Got it. Hanging up. After hanging up, I stood still, calmly waiting for Professor Lu. It was clear he had installed some device in the hospital room to eavesdrop or monitor all activity. I thought he would immediately turn hostile, but to my surprise, he approached me as calmly as ever. Are you Daniel Fang, class of 52? I hastily put on the humble demeanor of a student. Professor Lu, how do you know me? He chuckled. You bravely fought a criminal on the train before. The commendation banner for your heroic deed was sent to our school. Don't tell me. Are you doing another heroic deed at the hospital now? My face showed embarrassment. Professor Lu, I apologize. I just secretly went to visit Lucy. Oh. His face showed no emotion. You know Lucy? I nodded. To be honest, my elder brother secretly admired Lucy. After her accident, he became incredibly depressed, threatening to commit suicide every day. So I thought I'd come here. I originally intended to secretly take a few photos of her to cheer up my brother. But rest assured, I haven't taken any. I quickly realized my mistake and feel deeply ashamed. Professor Lu, I am truly sorry. You can punish me however you wish. Saying this, I bowed my head, appearing ready to accept punishment. Professor Lu sighed softly upon hearing this. I never expected anyone in this world to still remember Lucy. All right, perhaps I've been too stubborn. Maybe Lucy, the poor girl, also wants to see her friends. His words were beyond my expectation. I didn't know how to respond, only managing a bewildered, He continued to ask, What's your brother's name? Oh, my brother's name is Patrick Fang. He's an old friend of hers. I'm sure you know him, sir. Patrick Fang? Professor Lu shook his head. I don't think I've ever heard that name. Huh? I immediately scratched my head awkwardly. It seems they were just friends, and my brother was just being overly sentimental. After parting ways with Professor Lu, I walked a few steps. Sean darted out from a bush ahead. How did it go? Did you find anything? I briefly told him my deductions, and his jaw dropped, unable to close. What? There's a father like that in the world. I sighed. I'm not sure. I don't dare to believe it myself. So I need to confirm it? How to confirm it? Now I need to... I staggered, almost falling. Sean quickly supported me. What's wrong, Daniel? What's with you? I saw Professor Lu didn't hit you. I gave a wry laugh. He didn't hit me. But if this isn't resolved, I'll be in trouble. I told Sean to go back to school first, while I headed to Aunt Vivian's house. With my current underworld agent level, I still couldn't summon a demon envoy on my own. I needed to determine if Lily's soul truly remained in the mortal realm. Judging by the intricacy of the character hidden in the wind chimes, the person hiding in the laboratory building to manipulate the ghost was, as expected, Professor Ludot. His office was in the new laboratory building. At the same time, he possessed enough specialized knowledge to execute that light show. Now, it seemed he also had a motive. But what was he plotting in that abandoned laboratory building? One thing was certain. He had scared away everyone who went there. Liam's disappearance was an accident. Perhaps he, like Ethan, had uncovered the truth about the ghost. Or perhaps for some other reason. But the fact that he was imprisoned without being harmed could now be explained, because he was Lily's boyfriend. After arriving at Aunt Vivian's house, I briefly recounted the events. Without a second thought, she helped me summon a demon envoy. I say, without a second thought. But she actually said a lot. I watched her form a complex mudra with both hands, muttering an incantation so fast I couldn't make out the words. She chanted for a full minute. Suddenly, as she completed the gesture, the light in the room abruptly dimmed, and the temperature dropped for a brief moment. Aunt Vivian's final incantation, I heard clearly. Open the yin path. Messenger, guided by my contract, summon the current demon envoy to appear. The air in front of us suddenly warped like ripples. Then a figure appeared from nothingness, gradually sharpening from a vague blur, slowly solidifying into form. I saw the arriving entity. No, the arriving ghost, clad in a long black robe. Aside from its bloodless pale skin, which immediately marked it as non-living, it looked no different from a human. With the dignified demeanor of a civil official, it spoke. Underworld agent, what urgent matter requires my summoning? The demon envoy's voice was very ordinary, completely unlike the snarling, wide-eyed, echo-laden demons in TV drama. I hastily stepped forward and respectfully replied, Great demon envoy, I apologize for disturbing you. This time, I've summoned you to help confirm the whereabouts of a soul that died 2 years ago. The date of birth, date of death, location and cause of death. I reported the information I had gathered earlier, one by one. The demon envoy flipped through the underworld record in his hand, then said, Lily, I cannot find this soul. Indeed, I couldn't help but clench my fists. It seemed I was right. Professor Liu had somehow retained Lily's soul. So what was his purpose? Did he want to use some method to bring both of his daughters back to life in this world? Or did he truly intend to sacrifice Lucy to bring Lily back? Just as I was trying to organize my thoughts, the demon envoy continued flipping through the underworld record. Then suddenly frowned. Wait a moment. 2 years ago, at the same time and location, another girl passed away. The information matches very closely. Oh, I had a bad feeling. Lucy. The demon envoy's answer was like a clap of thunder in my ears. Lucy? My mind reeled. How could that be? Lucy died 2 years ago in that car. Accident? Is there some mistake? The demon envoy flipped through the underworld record again, confirming it multiple times. The record is correct. Lucy thought her lifespan ended. Died in a car accident. Her soul guidance process is clear. with the signature and seal of the soul guide. Absolutely no mistake. And the case file shows that this soul mysteriously vanished on the first night after death. The underworld search yielded no results. Her name is still listed in the ledger of lost souls to this day. All my previous deductions and conjectures were once again blown to pieces. I couldn't describe my emotions at that moment. I just reluctantly pressed further. So, is there any possibility that Lucy, by some special means or trick, returned to her own body and became a barely living vegetative patient? The demon envoy decisively shook his head. Her lifespan ended, and her soul was guided. There is absolutely no possibility of resurrection, not even the ability to possess someone else. Within the 6 paths, as soon as she appeared, she would immediately be locked down and brought back by the underworld. As for being untraceable, it must be due to some external force interfering, or her soul has already scattered and dispersed. After the demon envoy departed, my strained nerves suddenly relaxed. My vision darkened, and I felt severely light-headed and weak-kneed. Aunt Vivian quickly helped me to the sofa. "Daniel, what's wrong? Your face is terrible." I quirked my lips, forcing a strained smile. This token in my palm is really short-tempered. It gets angry if there's no progress for a moment. Aunt Vivian scoffed. "At a time like this, you still have the mood to joke? What's with you, kid? So young, and already an underworld agent, and encountering such a tough case right after starting. What does age matter in the underworld?" I tried to breathe steadily, not wanting to appear too weak. Aunt Vivian stopped speaking, not holding back any further words. After pouring me a glass of water, she couldn't help but wonder aloud. This is truly strange. Lucy is clearly dead, so how can she be lying still in a hospital bed for 2 years? Moreover, you used the soul-seeking art, and the person there is clearly alive, yet the official records of the underworld are ironclad proof of her death. What on earth is going on? I tried to recall all the information I knew and had seen. Liam's disappearance, the car accident, twin sisters, one dead, one injured, the hospital room, its decor, Professor Lu's stubbornness. Suddenly, an even more terrifying conjecture spread through my mind. A moment later, I heard my own voice, cold, yet strangely certain. Perhaps the person who has been lying in that hospital bed for 2 years is not Lucy at all. Aunt Vivian was initially startled, then immediately understood. "You mean it's Lily?" I nodded. "I think I've been thinking about this backward. Professor Lu didn't sacrifice Lucy to save Lily. He sacrificed Lily to summon Lucy. He and his ex-wife divorced, and he raised Lucy alone, so his affection for Lucy must be deeper. On the day Lily and Lucy had their accident, the one who died was originally Lucy. Professor Lu simply deceived everyone. From the very beginning, he couldn't accept the truth that Lucy had died. Similarly, from the very beginning, he had no intention of letting Lily live. He told everyone that Lily was dead and refused all of Lily's acquaintances from visiting the comatose Lucy, precisely because he was afraid of clues being discovered. He has always been researching, trying to change the fate of Lily and Lucy. Aunt Vivian was incredulous. Are you saying he wants to bring the deceased Lucy back into a living body, forcing the living Lily to die? My face serious. I nodded. That's right. Didn't I say that all the gifts in the hospital room were engraved with Lily's name? I pondered for a moment, then said, if I'm not mistaken, that must be a formation to bind Lily's living soul. At the time, when I used the soul-seeking art, I thought her life force was as weak as a candle in the wind because of her vegetative state. Now that I think about it, that faintness was probably due to her living soul being forcibly suppressed or forcibly separated. I carefully recalled the room's layout. Crystal in the azure dragon position to gather and collect energy. Bronze in the white tiger position, silent wind chimes to see and quietly imprison. Vermilion bird position to the south, rosewood boxes. Wood generates fire. The fire of separation transforms. That's the fuel of obsession. North. What's in the north? Berets. Owl. No. How could it be berets? My head throbbed. I pressed hard on my temples with both hands, trying to remember. Aunt Vivian said worriedly, Daniel, you can't keep thinking like this. If you continue, your body won't be able to handle it. There's no more time, Aunt Vivian. I have a premonition that Lily can't hold on much longer. My sudden intrusion into the hospital room today, Professor Lu's reaction was also very strange. He was too calm. That indicates that to some extent, he already had an adjustment plan, perhaps just waiting for the right moment. Aunt Vivian, please help me find if there's any soul-locking formation. A type with the azure dragon position for capture, white tiger for imprisonment, vermilion bird for control or transformation, and the black tortoise position for the final outcome. Aunt Vivian quickly flipped through all the formation books in the underworld textbook. Daniel, don't rush. What you've described is clear. We'll definitely find it right away. Sure enough, just a few minutes later, Aunt Vivian found a formation perfectly matching this situation in an encyclopedia of formations called the 9 Nether Profound Dome Secret Compendium, named the 4 Symbols Return to Ruin Soul Guidance and Life Refinement Formation. After reading the details of the formation, I broke out in a cold sweat. This was a containment and refinement formation, based on the 4 positions of the 4 symbols, using twin items as the formation eyes. Finally, I knew why Liam had disappeared. Because this formation required a living person as a sacrifice. And the best time to activate the formation was at the extreme yin hour of the yin year, yin month, yin day. Aunt Vivian and I simultaneously exclaimed, "Isn't that today?" I quickly checked my watch. 1 hour left. I sprang from the sofa and ran out. Aunt Vivian pulled me back. "Daniel, I'm coming with you." I stopped her. "Sister, other matters aside, you're an underworld agent. If you don't get involved in this, it has nothing to do with you." Aunt Vivian immediately got annoyed. "What on earth are you talking about? I'm your senior guide. We're essentially one team. How can your problem not concern me? Let's go. Stop dawdling." I sighed. "All right, I can't argue with you. But you should put on proper shoes, shouldn't you? Are you going ghost hunting in slippers?" Aunt Vivian slapped her head. "Oh, I was in such a hurry I forgot." She then bent down to look for her shoes. I raised my hand and delivered a swift, clean chop, knocking Aunt Vivian unconscious. Helping her onto the sofa, I mumbled, "I'm sorry, Aunt Vivian." Then I took out my phone, quickly snapped a picture, and ran out of her house. Time was limited, and there were too many tasks. I truly couldn't do it alone. First, I called Sean. "Brother, emergency rescue. Within an hour, no matter what. You have to trick the nurse to get into Lucy's hospital room and retrieve the beret from the coat rack." Beret, Sean sounded confused. "What for?" I reasoned based on the formation's details. If nothing unexpected happens, there should be obsidian stones hidden inside both berets. Once you get the obsidian, place them under Lily's pillow. Lily? Sean was even more bewildered. "I don't have yin-yang eyes. Where do I find Lily?" I slapped my forehead, having no time to explain, and quickly corrected myself. "Lucy." "Put them under Lucy's pillow. All right, don't worry, Daniel." Just as I was about to hang up, Sean suddenly remembered. "Hey, what if Professor Lou is in the room? It's 8:30 p.m. now. If nothing unexpected happened, he should be at the hospital, right?" "He won't be there," I said decisively. "He has something very important to do today." After hanging up with Sean, I called Ethan. "I know who's controlling the ghost now." "Who?" "Professor Lou." "How could Professor Lou?" "Professor Lou maintained a good image, normally. Ethan definitely wouldn't believe it." I didn't have time to explain to him. I could only provoke him to go investigate. Believe it or not, just go and see for yourself. Professor Lou should be at school right now. If you go to the haunted building now, he'll definitely send out the ghost projection to scare you away. I believe, with your abilities, it won't be hard to verify if my words are true or false, right? I needed Ethan to buy me time before I returned to school. As long as he appeared at the haunted building now, Professor Lou would definitely try every means to drive him away. And because time was limited, to avoid unnecessary risks, Professor Lou wouldn't physically confront students who came to check in today. He would assume students entering the haunted building were there to expose his prank. He would just hide in his office, secretly showing off the trick he was so proud of. Only after scaring these students away would he find an opportunity to enter the haunted building and activate the formation. I hastily hailed a taxi, secretly thinking how great it would be if the underworld textbook could teach some kind of teleportation spell. Upon returning to school, I deliberately hugged the exterior of the new laboratory building to circle around to the fire escape behind the haunted building. Doing so ensured I remained in Professor Lou's blind spot from his office. After sneaking into the building, I hunched over, moving softly forward. When I hid in a lab at the end of the first floor, I sent Ethan a picture of Aunt Vivian unconscious, and included the message, "Aunt Vivian isn't feeling well today. She suddenly fainted. She told me not to tell you, but I think I should." Half a minute later, I heard "Git thump thump thump" as Ethan ran out of that lab. Then thump thump thumpum as he ran up to the third floor. Perfect. From Professor Lou's perspective, he must surely think Ethan was scared away by a ghost. Soon enough, I heard faint footsteps. I knew Professor Lou had arrived. To avoid being seen, he wouldn't use a flashlight. But his time was urgent. His hurried footsteps betrayed a hint of anxiety. I thought that in such an emergency, he wouldn't pay attention to anything else and would go straight to the basement entrance. To my surprise, as he descended from the second to the first floor, he turned directly into the room I was in. Damn it. Did he discover me? No. He didn't seem to notice anyone hiding behind this cabinet. Then, what was he? I suddenly realized. Could the basement entrance be hidden in Ivy's lab? How cunning! I thought this spot, where I could observe activity on other floors, was an ideal hiding place. But timing is everything in a hiding spot. I softly poked my head out, using the faint moonlight to secretly observe Professor Lu Dai. I saw him walk directly to a large wall-mounted glass display cabinet for specimens and press something a few times in a certain spot. A faint mechanical sound echoed, and the human height display cabinet slowly slid open. Immediately, Professor Lu squeezed into the gap between the display cabinet and the wall. Then the display cabinet slowly slid back into place, and silence returned. After waiting a moment, I carefully stood up from behind the cabinet. Now that Professor Lu was down there, I didn't need to intentionally stay in the dark. I raised my flashlight and carefully examined the specimen display cabinet. Because when this cabinet moved, its lower edge was also off the ground, leaving no drag marks on the floor. There was only an old black button here, which looked broken. I tried pressing it, and of course, there was no response. But I had just witnessed it with my own eyes. I couldn't have seen nothing. I replicated Professor Lu's distinctive button press sequence. Long, short, long, 3 times. Buzz! The display cabinet slid open again, revealing deep, dark stairs leading downwards. I took a deep breath, bent down, and squeezed through. I descended step by step, going down over 10 steps, finally reaching a flat surface. Ahead was a narrow, vaulted passageway, not very long, just over 10 meters. At the end of the passage was a door. As soon as I approached this door, a strong, pungent smell of blood hit me straight in the face. The underworld token suddenly reacted, clearly sensing extremely powerful resentment. I knew what awaited me when I pushed this door open, but I had no time to hesitate or plan. I had to immediately check on Liam and Lucy. Clang! The heavy iron door was kicked open by me. Professor Lu suddenly turned around, the dagger in his hand glinting with a cold light. When he saw it was me, his tension eased. Daniel Fang is indeed not simple. My eyes quickly scanned the secret room. In the center was a black metal altar. Lucy's soul floated, tightly bound above it. She was faint, almost transparent, contorting her body and emitting unheard groans of pain. Liam was tightly bound to a cold metal cross beside the altar. His face was pale, his lips taped shut. He appeared conscious, his eyes filled with fear and despair. Turning to Professor Lu, he stood before the altar's central control panel, clutching a black dagger covered in talismans. I knew it was the Blood Soul dagger, used to activate the Grand Formation. Professor Lu, do you know what you're doing? A strange smile spread across his lips. Of course I know. I'm saving my Lucy. I raged. You animal! Aren't Lily and Lucy both your daughters? Now, you're abandoning a living person to save a dead one. Professor Lu let out a dry, unpleasant laugh. I don't care about all that. My Lucy is the most important. Lily is just like her mother, cruel and heartless. They both chose to leave me, to abandon me. Only Lucy, truly relied on me. His face grew increasingly ferocious. He raised his hands, looking around wildly. I must bring my Lucy back. As long as I can bring my Lucy back, I'll stop at nothing. Only then did I realize he could see Lucy's soul. Then it's simple. Save her? I took a step forward. You intend to use Lily's living soul as fuel, an innocent person's life as a sacrifice, to bring Lucy back. But do you know that the person you've tormented for the past 2 years in that hospital bed was, in fact, Lucy? Professor Liu's eyes narrowed. What did you say? Then he coldly regained his composure. Nonsense. How could I mistake my own daughter? I also gave a cold laugh. Yes, you can distinguish between Lily's and Lucy's bodies. But since you set up the 4 symbols, return to ruined soul guidance and life refinement formation, surely you also know the principle that the souls of twin sisters are of the same origin. Professor Liu's hand gripping the dagger unconsciously tightened. You know the 4 symbols. Return to ruined soul, guidance and life refinement formation. Just who are you? Who am I? Can't you guess? I am one who can freely traverse between the yin and yang realm. I guessed that the abnormality in Professor Liu's attitude towards me was because he had sensed the peculiarity in my energy. The grand formation was about to be activated. And he didn't want any unexpected incidents, nor did he know if I was friend or foe. And somehow, he must have sensed Lucy's soul's affinity for me. He didn't know it was the captive soul's instinctive cry for help towards the underworld token. I continued, in a calm voice. Lily's soul mysteriously vanished on the first night after death. The underworld sent me to find her. Professor Liu's face suddenly changed. You're talking nonsense. Why, Lily? It must be Lily. How could you claim it's Lily? I challenged him. Actually, at the moment of the car accident, Lily and Lucy's souls were accidentally swapped. Otherwise, why do you think if it were Lucy, she would resist the energy you're refining for her? Doesn't she want to live? Doesn't she want to reunite with the father she loves most? No. Sir, that's because Lucy didn't die at all. She's been in that hospital bed all along. Your soul guidance and life refinement formation has been used in reverse from the very beginning. All of your soul-locking items are engraved with Lily's name. Therefore, that means you've been constantly refining the yin soul of a dead person and pouring it into the body of a living person. And that living person is none other than the Lucy you've always longed for. You almost killed your own Lucy. I had previously noted in the 9 Nether Profound Dome Secret Compendium that the 4 symbols return to ruin soul guidance and life refinement formation could indeed refine the living soul of one twin, thereby helping another yin soul reverse its fate and return to life. But there were many special conditions, the first and most important being that the yin soul could not have reported to the underworld. Professor Liu chose to prevent the yin soul from reporting to the underworld on its very first night. This proved he only knew half of what the formation entailed. His formation was doomed to fail. and regardless of whether it was a living soul or a yin soul, both the one being refined and the one being poured into would have their souls scattered and dispersed. But if I told him the full truth, Professor Lu definitely wouldn't believe it. I could only disrupt his mind, then adapt as necessary. Professor Lu staggered back a few steps. No, no way, how can this be? It's impossible. His perception crumbled rapidly. He was on the verge of collapse. The hand clutching the dagger trembled violently, but he showed no intention of letting go. I stared intently at the blood-soiled dagger. Chi. As long as it wasn't plunged into the hole on the altar's central control panel, I could save Lily, Lucy, and Liam. But less than 2 minutes remained until the special extreme yin hour. Professor Lu, in his extreme terror and confusion, had lost his rationality. No, I've prepared for so long. I cannot fail. My formation, my calculations cannot be wrong. Just one last step. Just one last step. He instinctively looked towards Liam beside him, his gaze growing more deranged. No, this is bad. This formation requires blood sacrifice. Liam was Lily's boyfriend. His emotional energy could carry a special summoning imprint, capable of quickly destroying the resisting will of the soul being refined. Therefore, Professor Lu had to stab the dagger into Liam's heart first, then use the dagger, stained with the sacrificial victim's heart blood, to activate the grand formation. My voice suddenly rose sharply. Professor Lu, do you want to personally kill Lucy? He shrieked frantically. How do I know what's real or fake? Just one last step. I can't give up. Lily loves this boy madly. I just need to kill this boy, and I'll know. If you say the yin soul I brought back is Lily, then she will definitely stop me from stabbing this boy to death. With that, he raised the dagger, a vicious expression on his face, and lunged towards Liam. In that life or death moment, I didn't have time to think. I launched myself forward, not forgetting to mutter a curse. What the hell are you saving? A yin soul you've trapped, you idiot. Urgh! The dagger plunged into my left shoulder. It hurt so much I wanted to swear, but it was even better that it was stained with my blood. Gritting my teeth, I muttered an incantation, my right hand forming a blade-like mudra, sharp spiritual energy surrounding my fingertips, and like a flash of lightning, I swept it across the blood-souled dagger embedded in my body. The evil energy-filled talismans on the dagger, enveloped by my blood, were directly suppressed by the karmic force of the underworld token, emitting a sizzling sound as if being burned. What was being burned was the talisman's power on the dagger, but even more so, my own fresh flesh and blood, which I suppose smelled rather fragrant. Professor Lu, not understanding what was happening, was momentarily stunned. I delivered a kick, sending him sprawling, then held my breath, grabbed the dagger, and forcefully pulled it out of my shoulder. I gritted my teeth and let out a groan, then quickly used the dagger to sever all the ropes binding Liam's hands and feet. Professor Lu scrambled to his feet, enraged. You ruined my grand plan. You'll all die, he screamed loudly, yet strained to run towards the iron door. This action puzzled me. Then I heard Liam, who had ripped off the tape from his mouth, yell, "Stop him! He set a time bomb here! Oh no!" By the time I rushed over, it was too late. I only heard a bang as Professor Lu locked the iron door. Then, a ticking sound began to emanate from the secret room. I'd only ever heard that sound on TV, usually in action movies. Professor Lu had covered the bomb with a torn piece of cloth, so I hadn't noticed it when I entered. Liam removed the cloth, revealing the bomb's countdown clock. 3 minutes. I kicked the iron door a few times, confirming it couldn't be forced open. I started running around, trying to find another exit from this secret room. How does this chemistry old man have so many skills? Then I looked at Liam. My fellow chemistry student, do you know how to defuse a bomb? Liam looked very awkward. Professor Lu didn't teach us this in class. An answer that made me laugh and cry at the same time. Just try, buddy. It's better than sitting here, waiting to die. I watched Liam roll up his sleeves, swallow, wipe the sweat from his forehead, then pick up the dagger and sit down. Daniel Fang, thank you for saving my life today. Though we may no longer know each other after this, I will remember you. As he spoke, he carefully studied the bomb. Today, I was already mentally prepared to meet Lily. Dying sooner or later really makes no difference. It's just that now, it might also take your life with it. Consider it a debt Liam owes you. If there's a chance in the next life, I will definitely repay it. What? I suddenly asked. My alarm even startled Liam. He repeated it with clear eyes. If there's a chance in the next life, I will definitely repay it. I wasn't asking you. I was asking if Lucy had anything to say. I quickly ran to Lucy's side. The invisible chains binding her had abruptly broken when the talismans on the blood-soul dagger lost their effect. I had originally planned that if the bomb exploded and I died, I would just take Lucy's soul directly to the underworld. But she used her last ounce of strength, trying her hardest to convey something. Liam looked at me, a comforting air about his face, as if I were hallucinating. Daniel, you've been so scared you're hallucinating. Death is scary, but try to be open-minded. What? In 18 years, we'll be two good men again. She's saying to cut the red and green wires. I confirmed with Lucy. Lucy weakly nodded. I turned to Liam and said, cut the red and green wires. Huh? Liam's eyes were wide as saucers. Scurry and cut it. Only 38 seconds left. He was still stunned, unable to process the situation before. I lunged forward, snatched the dagger from his hand, and without hesitation, cut both the red and green wires. The ticking suddenly stopped. Huh? Liam's jaw dropped, his face clearly showing mind blown written all over it. Not long after, clatter, the iron door lock was violently broken open by someone. The person who pushed the door open was none other than Ethan. Hey, why are you here? I was surprised, having taken precautions for no phone signal in the secret room. Before entering, I had sent the entry method to Sean. Sean got stuck in traffic and told me to come for the rescue first. He said it would take a long time to run back. Ethan's voice was as indifferent as ever. Traffic jam, huh? Fine by me. I scratched my head. Surviving a deadly incident because of such an ordinary word as traffic jam suddenly felt very funny, yet also somewhat reassuring. Too bad Professor Lu got away, I exclaimed angrily. Ethan said he couldn't run. Aunt Vivian kicked him into the corner. It turned out that when Ethan ran downstairs to Aunt Vivian's house, she was already coming down, rubbing her head. The two met, and the truth was immediately exposed. Ethan quickly took Aunt Vivian to school. Just as he was trying to find the entrance to the secret room, Sean called Ethan. As a result, as Ethan and Aunt Vivian rushed to the lab at the end of the first floor, they saw the display cabinet slide open. Professor Lou stealthily emerged, was kicked to the ground by Aunt Vivian, and then kicked into the corner again. That day, Sean had placed all the obsidian stones hidden in the berets under Lily's pillow. In other words, Lily's living soul energy, after being absorbed, completed a cycle and returned to her body. She was both the source and the recipient, thus temporarily regaining some vitality. Originally, Lily wouldn't have become a vegetative patient. It was because Professor Lou had imprisoned her using soul refinement techniques for many years, which prevented her from waking up, as medical science suggests. After the soul refinement technique was broken, Lily quickly recovered. The couple, who had seemed separated by life and death, were reunited. Liam took incredibly meticulous care of Lily. Not long after, Lily recovered and was discharged from the hospital. Lucy's soul was also guided back to the underworld by me using the underworld river. Although her soul was damaged, fortunately, it didn't dissipate. With some time to recuperate, she could still reincarnate. As for Professor Lu Chi Min, he was sentenced to prison for attempted kidnapping and murder. For the rest of his years, he would forever reside in the secret room he so loved, his prison cell. Everything had settled down, but this cruel father would ultimately leave the deepest and most painful scar in Lily's heart. But life was still very long. Hopefully, other good things would slowly heal her emotional wounds. Immediately after I emerged from the basement, Aunt Vivian saw the wound on my shoulder, and she was very worried. As soon as the wound healed, Aunt Vivian summoned me to face death. Upon arriving at her house, a bowl of begging noodles, Aunt Vivian's own invention, mixed with ghost peppers, bird's eye chilies, and Carolina reapers, was pushed in front of me. Aunt Vivian pointed her hand. "Eat." My scalp tingled numbly. I almost knelt down. "Sister, dear sister, can I please be spared from eating this?" I was wrong. I was truly wrong. From now on, no matter what, I won't knock you out again. I'll knock myself out before I knock you out. Aunt Vivian raised an eyebrow, still uttering only one word: eat. A vein pulsed on my forehead. "Sister, spare my life." If I eat this whole bowl, I could perform in a circus, breathing fire from my mouth. Aunt Vivian couldn't help but burst out laughing at my words. "Next time you do that, I'll make sure you eat 10 bowls at once." Saying this, she pushed the bowl of noodles towards Ethan. I watched Ethan, not even blinking, calmly pick up his chopsticks and eat with gusto. My jaw nearly hit the floor. "Ethan, are you even human? You can eat warhead heart?" Ethan adjusted his glasses. "I was afraid you'd actually eat it just now." "What? I only cooked 1 bowl. This is my favorite dish." I looked blankly at Aunt Vivian. Aunt Vivian smugly raised an eyebrow. After a few bites, Ethan suddenly looked up and seriously said to me, "Though it's not important, this is truly the first time I've met someone with such unconventional pronunciation as you. Huh? I don't understand. He adjusted his glasses. My name is Ethan Dye, not Ethan Dyan. With pronunciation like that. How did you even pass your Mandarin proficiency test? I looked blankly at Aunt Vivian. Aunt Vivian let out a snort of laughter. He doesn't watch dramas. Honestly, he only watches science documentaries.